Welcome to Paranormal Nightshift, where the shadows tell their secrets and your chilling fan stories come to life. I'm your host, Gideon, guiding you through the unexplained, the eerie, and the downright hair-raising. But before we dive into tonight's story, I've got something special for you. Visit paranormalnightshift.com to claim your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado, the first ebook in our Dimensional Desperado series. Discover how Buck, Shadow Sheriff Freeman's journey into time-traveling paranormal adventures begins. Don't miss out. Now let's get back to the darkness. Tonight's tale comes from one of our listeners, Heather, and it's titled, My Brother's Promise. Get ready to be pulled into the unknown. This one might have you sleeping with the lights on. I'll never forget the day my world came crashing down. Sitting in that sterile, white-walled doctor's office, I was told I'd never be able to have children. The words hit me like a train, hollowing me out from the inside. I'd already suffered through a miscarriage, a wound that felt as raw as the day it happened, and now I was being told that motherhood was not in the cards for me. My younger brother, always my protector, was there for me during that dark time. He held me as I cried for days on end, his strong arms and quiet reassurances my only solace. He was just a teenager himself, but he carried my grief like it was his own. He watched as I struggled, yearning for a child, and he promised me one day things would be better. I wanted to believe him, but the pain was so consuming that hope felt like a distant dream. When my brother passed away not long after, I thought the light in my life had gone out for good. Losing him was a pain like no other, deep, sharp, and suffocating. He was my rock, my anchor in the storm, and suddenly he was gone. Grief layered upon grief, and I felt adrift in a sea of sorrow. Years passed, and the dream of having children dimmed but never fully disappeared. Life moved forward, and I eventually met my husband, a kind, loving man who saw me for who I was, broken pieces and all. Together, we visited a doctor who gave us a glimmer of hope. "It will be hard," the doctor said, "but with advancements in technology, it might be possible." Those words reignited something in me. I started taking birth control to manage ovarian cysts, a small step toward the possibility of motherhood. Not long after, my husband and I visited friends, an amazing couple we cherished dearly. The wife was Wiccan, a fact we fully embraced. She was one of the most kind-hearted, generous women I'd ever met, and her presence had a way of making everyone feel at ease. During that trip, we shared meals, stories, and laughter, creating memories I thought would simply be another chapter in our lives. But something changed after that visit. When we got home, I started feeling unwell. It wasn't a passing bug. It lingered, gnawing at me. Jokingly, people said, "Maybe you're pregnant. You know, she has a way of helping people who want children." I laughed it off at first, but the thought stuck. Eventually, I caved and bought a few home pregnancy tests. One by one, the results came back positive. I was stunned. Before starting birth control, I'd undergone blood tests to confirm I wasn't pregnant. It was impossible, wasn't it? My hands shook as I called the doctor's office on a Sunday. They called me back within an hour, urging me to come in the next morning. The ultrasound confirmed it. I was pregnant. Tears streamed down my face as I saw the tiny flicker of a heartbeat on the screen. Against all odds, a life was growing inside me. But joy was quickly overshadowed by fear. The memories of my miscarriage haunted me, and I couldn't shake the anxiety that something might go wrong. I struggled to sleep, my mind consumed with worry. One night, in the haze between sleep and wakefulness, I saw him, my brother. He stood there just as I remembered him, his presence warm and reassuring. He told me he was watching over me, and promised that the baby would be okay. "She's going to be fine," he said with a confidence that melted away my fear. The details struck me. We didn't know the baby's gender yet, but he was certain. The second trimester brought complications. My baby stopped growing, and the terror of losing her gripped me again. I felt like I was living through the same nightmare. But once more, my brother appeared. He reminded me of his promise and told me she would make it through. He even described her. "She'll have beautiful blue eyes and strawberry blonde hair," he said. His words brought me peace when nothing else could. The day my daughter was born, I knew without a doubt my brother had been with us all along. She had those striking blue eyes and that delicate strawberry blonde hair, just as he'd described. As she grew, I avoided talking much about my brother around her, not wanting to burden her with my grief. But one day, when she was still young, she saw a picture of him and asked, "Who is he?" I explained that he was her uncle, someone very special who had passed away. Her eyes lit up and she said, "He comes to sit with me at night sometimes when you're sleeping. He makes me feel safe." My heart swelled with a mix of emotions: gratitude, amazement, and love. My husband worked late nights during that time, and knowing my brother was still watching over her filled me with comfort. Now, she's a teenager with those same blue eyes and strawberry blonde hair, just as he'd promised. She has a younger brother, named in honor of my own, and I like to think he watches over both of them. Every so often he visits me in dreams or during quiet moments just to check in. His presence reminds me that love transcends all boundaries, even death. Not all stories of the unknown have to be scary. Some are simply reminders that those we love never truly leave us. They stay with us, guiding us, protecting us, and giving us hope when we need it most. And that wraps up this thrilling journey into the unknown. Heather, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story with us. If you enjoyed this episode, consider supporting the show. You can join us on Patreon for an ad-free experience and exclusive access to all future adventures of the Dimensional Desperado. Plus, Patreon members get extra perks, so don't miss out. Not ready for Patreon? No problem. You can still support us by subscribing to the podcast on Spotify and YouTube. While you're there, drop a comment and let us know what you thought about this episode. Your feedback means the world to us. And don't forget to visit paranormalnightshift.com to grab your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado, the first ebook in the series. It's the perfect way to dive even deeper into Buck Shadow Sheriff, Freeman's wild and mysterious adventures. Finally, if you've got a story of your own, don't be shy. Head over to Paranormal Nightshift to submit it. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and stay tuned for more spine-chilling tales from Paranormal Nightshift.